Pastor Mark Biltz here from Shaddai Ministries. Thank you again so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe and share. Also, please like this video, and we would love to hear your comments. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye. In Acts 13:14, when they departed from Perga, they came to Antioch in Pisidia, which is a region of Galatia. And they went where? Into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down. I mean, people like to say, well, they didn't keep the Sabbath in the New Testament. Yes, they did. That's all they did. Everywhere you read, it was in the synagogue on the Sabbath day. Okay, now, you have to remember, in Acts 13, they are in Galatia. And he says in verse 16, in a synagogue, because a lot of the church like to say they never met in the synagogue, they only met in the church. No, they met in the synagogue. Paul stood up, and beckoning with his hand, he said, men of Israel, and who else? You that? Okay, those are the non-Jews who are meeting in the synagogue with the Jews. These are the God-fearers. He says, listen up. And then in verse 26, again, he knows his audience, and he says, men and brethren, children of the stock of Abraham, and whoever among you that what? There's God. So this again is his audience. He says, to you is this word of salvation sent. In other words, the word of salvation is not only for the Jew, but it's for the non-Jew. Look at verse 38 and 39. He says, be it known to you, therefore, men and brethren, that through this man is preached unto you the forgiveness of sins. And by him, all that believe are justified from all things from which you could not be justified by the law of Moses. Many Christians misread that. Well, the whole thing is the law of Moses wasn't meant to save you. It was meant to let you know you needed one. Without the law, there's no sin. If you don't have the law, you don't need to be saved. But you have to have the law to know you need a Savior. So how many of you, I've mentioned this many times before, seen the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy? It's where a plane is flying over Africa or something, and the guy throws a Coke bottle outside of the window, and it lands on the ground or hits somebody in the head. And they'd never seen a plane or seen any civilization. And they thought this pop bottle came from the heavens, and they start using it for everything but what it's supposed to be used for. They're using it for a roller to bake with. They use it as a hammer to hit people over the head with. Well, that's the same thing. The Torah came from heaven, and people don't know what to do with the Torah that came from heaven. Excuse me. So, what do? They take the Torah and beat people over the head with it. Okay. That's not what the Torah was created for. But you have to have the Torah. It's just think of, I explained it to someone this morning. Think of the Torah as an email. The email doesn't save you, but what saves you is the person who wrote the email. Okay, so the Torah in itself is it's paper with letters. This can't save anybody, but the one who wrote it can. And he says, if you follow my instructions. So you got to follow what it says, but this won't save you. This won't save anybody. You can burn it in the fire.